Why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order?
Sure.
And we do have a quorum with Hank, Peter, Fern, and myself. So we're in good shape there. And also Fern and Peter were at the last meeting, so we can have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh,
Hey, there's Stephen.
Steve.
Hey, Stephen.
Hello, good evening.
And we'll have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes. Motion to
Okay,
approve.
motion made in a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, okay. Any discussion on them? Look rather straightforward.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, the topic, we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting last evening at a special Board of Education. I mean, a Board of Selectmen meeting on the solar project, the financing method, and whether we do a tax exempt lease purchase agreement or a power purchase agreement. And there was a very good discussion on that. And we had not only the selectmen, but we had Advanced Energy Efficiency, and we had the entity that would act as the financing of the project on the tax exempt municipal lease. And we also had, all of the Board of Selectmen there, which was very good. But a very good discussion, and it was very positive. And Marty was there, and going to the next step is go to the Finance Committee. We don't know for sure. Marty has to do a little bit of research yet if there'd have to be a town meeting or anything. But one of the natures of a tax municipal lease agreement is that it doesn't obligate one fiscal year, one budget does not obligate the other budget, because there's a non-appropriations clause, which basically says that if the town doesn't appropriate for the payments of the lease is over. What we would have to do is just remove the solar and send it back to the provider. We don't think that would happen. But there's a very significant, when you look at the difference in the financing, there's a very significant advantage to do a tax exempt lease, more than a couple $100,000 benefits, as we saw in the last meeting and in the numbers there. So that is moving forward, and once we decide, I think probably the worst case is we'd have to have a town meeting on the project, but hopefully not. So we're, like I said, Marty's searching that. Anybody have any questions or comments on the solar?
Oh,
Okay, we did have some discussion about storage batteries that came up, and that was of interest to the selectmen, and Paul has asked if we put together some information on storage batteries. And there's a very, very attractive program that Eversource has. If we have storage batteries and we discharge the batteries probably about 5 to 6 times out of the year during the summer when it's a hot and the load's at its peak, we could get paid $100 a kW. So if we have 500 kW of storage batteries, that's what, like $50,000 we could get paid for being able to do that. I've been willing to do that. So it could be a good mechanism to fund.
We have to
Storage
buy the
batteries.
batteries?
Pardon me?
We have to purchase the batteries?
Yeah, the batteries would be purchased, probably financed on the tax exempt municipal lease too, which would be quite favorable. There's other mechanisms to do that, but then that leads the next step to the good step to go for the microgrid for the school park, because the storage batteries would be suited for that. So that is left for a second discussion. But the project is moving forward. And like I said, very positive. And I'm anticipating that the systems will be up and operating with waiting till couldn't put them on the roof until the school projects are completed at Johnson and Rockwell. But the timing on that would be to start, things could start around January, where you have to go through the process to get the interconnection agreement with the Eversource and that, but looking at the possibility of having the solars up and operating this coming summer, generating power. So that's the sort of the timeline. Again, any questions or?
With regards to the batteries, how is it determined when we're releasing that capacity back out?
A day had notice. Eversource would tell us, say on Tuesday, they would say discharge a battery between 3 and 6 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday. So it's a day ahead notice type of thing. So you can prepare to do that and have batteries recharged. And they're chasing the capacity tag for the grid. And what that is, if you're not familiar with capacity tag, is in your kilowatt hour charge, about 30 to 40% of that, depending upon how the capacity prices run, is part of the kilowatt hour charge. So if you're paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity, being able to discharge the batteries during the 1 hour of the year, which would be in a hot summer day, that the ISO grid is at its peak, then you void starting the following June. You don't have to purchase, or there's no charge for the capacity component, and it would, could be a 3 to 4 cents kilowatt hour reduction in the rates for power for those buildings that have batteries, and that's another source of revenue for it. So that's something that the selectmen have asked us to take a look at. So we're going to get some information together for that.
Bill, the solar project that we're talking about, will that run if the power is out, or does it we saw that in California?
No, solar is the way they're connected, have to have the grid up. They can't function. But with the batteries there, you can store batteries. If you get a battery with a 4-hour storage, you can have at least 4 hours of runtime on the batteries for the electrical.
But can the solar go into the battery?
Yes, yeah. That would be the primary means of charging the batteries, would be with the solar.
So that would mean that the solar could run if the power was out.
Well, not really, because the inverters are insulated gate bipolar transistors on the solar, and they are commutated by the utility grid. They depend upon the utility grid.
Right, but could the solar charge the battery when the grid is down?
Well, if the solar charged the battery, that's possible, because it would be charging on a DC basis.
Right, and then the battery would supply power to the police station and other buildings.
Yes, yeah, that could be that way.
So it could effectively let us use solar if the power's out for another week.
Correctly, yeah. For the length of time that you do have storage capability. But yes, that's a possibility. There's a great deal of flexibility that we could get. Of course, if we have the microgrid there, and we would tie in the emergency generators from the schools, and they would operate, so we could power the grid of the school park, police station, and everything, 7x24. And that's the ultimate goal that we want to try to achieve.
What's the technology of the batteries?
Pardon me, you faded out there.
Oh, what technology are the batteries you're talking about?
We don't know yet, but we want to take a look and see. Most likely the leading candidate are lithium ion batteries, but there's some other technologies that
Newer Second Life. New or second life batteries?
Would it be new batteries?
Is that lithium iron or lithium ion?
Ion.
Yeah, lithium ion.
Yeah.
But that will
And
be
what's the-
something
what-
that we'll be looking at next.
What's the cost and lifetime of those typically?
The battery's lifetime is typically 10 years until the batteries have to be refurbished or replaced. I don't know what the costs are. That's one thing we've got to dig into and find out. The cost is basically driven by the amount of storage that you have. In other words, if you have a 200 kW battery, you can have it with 1 hour of kilowatt of storage, or 4 hours or 5 hours. The more hours you get of storage, which would make them supply power for a longer period of time, the higher the cost.
Well, how's the typical cost of these batteries compared to that $100 per kilowatt hour that Eversource would give us?
Well, that's one of the reasons why the price for the Eversource is to encourage and incentivize purchasing batteries. It can be quite significant, because that's, you could get over 3 years. If you get $150,000 over 3 years, and your battery system costs $400,000, you're doing pretty good.
Okay, so that's $100 a kilowatt hour per year.
$100 per kW.
Oh, it's KW.
Yeah. So it'll depend upon the size of the inverter.
Oh,
What's
that's
the-
all?
Hmm?
So you could put a master inverter in a 10-minute battery and still get that $100?
Yeah. Well, no, because they want you have to run the Eversource is looking for 3 hours of battery capability.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at 3 hours of storage. But you also get, the kilowatt hour offset.
Mhm.
There's a small manufacturer in the Ansonia area that aware of that has a backup generator that's permitted to run for non-emergency basis, and they participate in the program with not with Eversource, but with the capacity tag. They're chasing the capacity tag, and when the grid hit its peak last year, they took 400 kilowatts off of the grid and ran the generator for 3 hours, and their kilowatt hour charge for the entire year was reduced by 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's, you have different financial benefits to run the economics on, to take a look at.
It's a typical lifespan of those types of batteries.
Well, they're about 10 years, and then you typically have to replace it.
10 years to 80%.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that a 50 kilowatt car battery is approximately $16,000 to $18,000. So if we're chasing 500, you'd need 10 of them.
Yeah.
So we're right in that $400,000 to $500,000 price. But what's happening now is electric vehicles are exceeding their lifespan. There's a market developing for second life batteries. So they're significantly less expensive, and since they usually get they open up the packs and change a module or two, and good as new. Tesla's doing that with a lot of their home storage.
Well, that would be good too.
And I was just approached by BMW this week on the same subject of industrial and storage batteries.
Very good. I'm going to ask you for some help in putting this together that
Sure.
the selectmen want.
Sure. I can probably get the guys to do a presentation on storage batteries, just from the battery side of things.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. I appreciate that. Well, that gives us a good segue into the fleet study. The selectmen, we had made a presentation, Peter had made a presentation to the selectmen first part of the year, and they expressed a good deal of interest in moving the town's fleet to electric vehicles. And Peter put together a proposal to do a fleet study. And with the COVID and everything, it sat there not doing much, but we followed up with Matt Knickerbocker, and he is very interested. He said he's still very, very interested in doing this, but with the finance situation with the COVID and everything else with the town, it didn't feel it was an appropriate time or a good time to be able to pursue that. So Peter has offered to maybe do the study pro bono if that would help. And I met with if that would be possible to be able to do that. And I communicated with Matt, and he came back and he says it might be possible. We should schedule a meeting or a Zoom call to explore.
Sure.
So he wants to take that step.
Could we do it as part of this commission?
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's what we'll do.
I mean, it's probably 20 hours total.
Okay.
So not a lot of work. And I'm offering to provide the foundation and the framework for a plan for the town to move forward, so that you don't have to hope there's money for the parks vehicle. You're going to know that the parks vehicle that you bought in 2020 goes away in 2027. And if it's in great condition, we collect more money for it when we sell it, when we buy the new one. But it makes the budgetary process for fleet very predictable, which budget people like, and there are no surprises. Fire's not going to come say, hey, we need a truck. Well, you got 10 years to go, or whatever the life cycle is. And it's just simple organization, making sure that town's accounting for all of its fuel expenditures, that there's some repository that, the controller can look at. And, we have a couple of fueling stations, so make sure everyone's accountable in that sense. And just without trying, you'll probably save the town six figures a year, low six figures a year, just in maintenance costs. When you realize it's not worth it to maintain a 30-year-old truck anymore. It's just not. It's cheaper to lease it until we have the capital budget to replace it. But everything has a plan. So, the agencies don't have to submit every year for vehicles. They know what they're getting, unless there were accidents and, unforeseen events.
What I can do then is I can ask Matt if he would like to, for our next regular meeting, have this on the agenda, and then we can discuss it. And
Right.
go from there.
And the goal was that Matt had asked, about electric vehicles. And electric vehicles, aside from being a showpiece, aren't going to provide you any savings because you have no benchmark against it. So I'm not sure the town knows. I asked the question a year ago, how much does the town spend in fuel? I don't know. There was not a clear-cut answer. And if we start looking at fuel costs, we look at every one of the police vehicles are SUVs. Why? That's when you start looking at hybrids and maybe eventually electric vehicles that just sit and babysit construction sites anyway. You save probably $20,000, $30,000 a year in fuel costs with just a handful of hybrids and electric vehicles used strategically. So that was the idea behind the fleet study, and I did it for New York City. And we've got a proposal. We could use that as a guideline. I'll share it with everyone, and anyone wants to contribute, let's have fun. We'll understand, all the vehicles in the town, how much we're spending to maintain them. And there's going to be a lot of questions. So anyone who wants to participate, it's the Good News Garage all over again, click and clack. I used to work with them, by the way, in Boston back in the day.
That was one of my favorite programs.
Yeah. Ray Magliozzi owned a shop that I used to work at. Yeah. So there's the offer to, the commission, if anyone wants to help me with a fleet study. I'll take
Okay,
it.
I'll schedule, and I'll talk to Matt about our next regular meeting.
Yep,
Putting this on the agenda, this will be the main topic on the agenda.
sure.
We probably will have an answer on the financing for the solar too at that point in time, so.
Okay, great.
And we can go from there. And anybody have any questions or suggestions on the fleet study?
Okay, cool.
All righty. Well, that's all we had on the agenda. Do we have anything else anybody would like to bring up and talk about?
Oh, my neighbor just bought a Tesla, but he's got nowhere to charge it in town.
Where?
On Fleetwood.
On Fleetwood?
Yeah. New neighbor just has an Model S sitting out there in the
Model S.
driveway. Has to put in a home charger or go
Yeah.
to the mall.
Yeah. And that's one of the things with the fleet too, is with the solar, is
No.
being able to charge batteries. Have a setup to charge the batteries for the fleet. And
Well, I think I told you when I was out in California, they've got these now mobile solar chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's one thing with the police station is there's enough land there that and such that you could have canopies in the parking lot area with solar and be charging the batteries and for the police station. So that would enhance even more the
Yep.
fuel savings.
Listen, we won't even get into the discussion about NYPD putting little solar panels on the roofs of the SUVs to keep all the electronics going and the cooling on a hot day.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
All righty. Well, anybody else have anything? To have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so moved. Well, I appreciate it very much and thank you. And we are still making progress, even though the town is basically shut down for everything except Zoom meeting.
Yep.
So thank
All
you very
right.
much and
Take care,
Enjoy.
everyone. Cheers.
Take
Have a
care,
good one.
everyone. Stay healthy.